These are no longer characters. This is simply contempt congealed onto screen, but contempt for nothing, for nobody, for its own sake. The family leaves, but then comes back. They were inspired by how Mr. Bertram... Well, anyway, it's a happy ending, because stories have those. So put that in there. That's how stories end. So that's, for the spell to work, that's what you got to do. You might find this difficult to believe, but I did not go into this show wanting to hate it. I really tried to see the good in it, because wouldn't that be more interesting if it turned out that I actually liked this cartoon being pitched as this anti-woke, anti-left-wing statement? Wouldn't that be more compelling as a video, me having to justify that to you? Failing that, I suppose, hating it would be a good consolation prize, because it's fun to make fun of shitty stuff. It's fun to pick apart a bad movie or show. But this wasn't fun. I didn't hate this show, not in the way that makes it easy to make fun of. I felt nothing but pity for this show, this small-minded, powerless, empty little show. Whatever malevolent force I have imagined to be at the heart of Mr. Bertram is entirely impotent. It's clawing at us, sneering, but it can't use the power at its fingertips. It doesn't understand what stories are or how to make them work. And in the end, it just ends up trying to copy the homework of other better stories. In episode 4, we see Bertram's origin story, right? He became a teacher because the job was offered to him despite him doing nothing to earn it.
I don't even have teaching credentials, and I hated school when I was in it. Why would I go back? Here's the deal. I'm not a real teacher. Try not to kill each other while I sleep off this hangover.
He initially turns it down, but then at that second, conveniently enough, his wife calls him and explains that their kids needed money or something. I don't fucking remember.
Yellow. That's not good. Eddie's earache got worse. He might need an operation. Do full-time teachers get health coverage?
It doesn't really make a lot of sense because Bertram is a skilled tradesman. He would make a lot more money doing that than working as a teacher. But it doesn't matter. It's just there to suggest Bertram takes his responsibility to his family seriously without having to show us that. It just tells us that.
Sometimes a man has to do what he needs to do, not what he wants to do.
Hey, you're a good dad, Birch.
In Season 6, Episode 13 of The Simpsons, and Maggie Makes 3, Homer Simpson goes through a, let's say, conspicuously similar situation. There, likewise in flashback, we see Homer having left his miserable dead-end job to pursue his dream of working at the bowling alley. He's fulfilled, and we see both how miserable his old job made him and how happy his new one makes him. Marge feels guilty about having to spoil that when she discovers that she's pregnant, and when Homer finds out, he reluctantly returns to the power plant. He begs for his old job back, and his boss, Mr. Burns, rubs salt in the wound by placing a plaque on the wall which reads, "Don't forget, you're here forever." But Homer doesn't just make that sacrifice and bitch and moan about it. We see that he's used pictures of Maggie to make the plaque read, "Do it for her," because his love for his kids is greater than his dislike for his job. It's worth it for Homer Simpson to make the sacrifice because he feels things. He loves his family. He is alive. Homer Simpson is real. I've watched that episode of The Simpsons maybe 100 times, and it still consistently makes me cry. Bertram, in contrast, sacrifices nothing, but still acts aggrieved, as though we, the audience, are meant to be grateful to him. We should be impressed that he cares enough about his kids to pay the bills, as though that isn't the bare minimum, as though it isn't his responsibility, it's just something he does because he's a good guy.
You're a good dad, Birch.
He is to be owed. Not only does he know better than everyone else in every respect, he's also put in his dues. His wife and kids should obey him not simply because it's better for them if they do, but because their relationship is transactional, and he has given more than they have. He sacrificed something for them, and now they must be gracious and show the proper gratitude. And the thing he is aggrieved about, the horrible sacrifice that he is so bitter about having to make, is having to teach children. Having to instill in the next generation the values he so endlessly prattles on about. He finds no satisfaction in that, or anything it seems, because he's not real, there is no Mr. Bertram, this cartoon is fake, and not a convincing fake. In Grant Morrison's stories about Darkseid, there's a repeated motif of characters saying, "Darkseid is." You know how in Bible, God says, "I am that I am"? It's like a dark reflection of that, right? Darkseid is, and therefore his influence and the evil he represents is. You can't really defeat him, not forever anyway, because he is. Can't not be, he is. If fictional characters, if fiction itself, stories, etc., if they're all real, in a sense, That's a charming idea, but I never really thought about the kind of danger within that. Because there's very little harm in someone like Homer Simpson or Superman or Bugs Bunny or Sherlock Holmes or Waluigi being real. People create them, or I don't know, maybe contact them, who knows, and then use that to enrich our lives and add to the totality of human culture. But what if you could use that another way? What if you could use it to do the opposite? To limit the scope of our lives, to silence our imaginations, to exert one's will onto other people. I don't think Mr. Bertram can do that. Unlike Darkseid, Bertram isn't. They didn't create a story. He's not alive. They didn't bother. He's not real. It's not difficult to imagine, though, the same team or some other team like them in service to whatever dark entity I may or may not believe is literally controlling their minds and hearts, either improving their abilities or recruiting people whose abilities are a little sharper and returning with something a little more compelling, just enough to ignite that little spark of reality, bringing their vision to life, even if just by happenstance. So, if fiction is real, and I think we have established it might be, we should be very careful about what kind of fiction we give power to, what kinds of stories and characters and influence we allow into our minds. Because if we're not careful, the next Mr. Bertram might just have it.
Same as the old norm. Everything's changing and I don't know when. This whole nightmare will end. Thank God for Elon Musk. And his shitpost memes.
Okay, oh wow, never mind. We're good. They're not gonna figure this shit out. That is a huge fucking relief if I'm being honest. Oh my god. So can I go home or what's the deal? Oh shit, yeah, no, I completely forgot you were here, Dracula. You just talked for like 40 minutes straight. You really gotta be more assertive. You gotta just kind of, I didn't want to interrupt you. No, I get that. It's just, you know, like when I get going, it's hard to stop, right? Like I'm not always like looking to you for that cue, so you kind of have to like jump in. I'm going to be honest, I didn't watch Mr. Bertram.
This is how you treat your friends?
Thank you for watching this hour-long video about the comedy television program Mr. Bertram, which is neither a comedy nor on television. It is a program though, gotta give him that.
Getting shot at!
Normally, this is the part where I would say something self-effacing like, "Oh, can you believe I spent 2 months making this?" But I like this video. I like this one. I don't normally like them right after making them, but I like this one. So suck a lemon, haters. But if you're not a hater, why not go on over to patreon.com/thoughtslime and support whatever sickness enabled me to make this. Kissy, kissy.
He's a really good marketer, natural.
Taking fire!
Like even the joy thing.
Arizona, bring that joy with you.